as you would the normal vanilla version. They will be going through escape, and rather than getting a sword from Uncle, which is normally guaranteed, they'll be getting one of 8 different randomized weapons.
That's right. I quite like that Uncle text there. He just says hi and then walks off into the night, never to be seen again. Well, no, we see him in 30 seconds.
It's the man of few words. So what weapon are you hoping to see? Obviously, a few different options. Bombs, fire rod, hammer, just to name a few.
I always like that early bow play.
The early bow definitely can make routing a little bit interesting early. But we get bombs, and this is my favorite opening.
Yeah, I do enjoy bombs. I think it's a really good test of the runner's skill and their ability to be consistent with some tricky strats. And if not, then we might see a bit of save and quit. What was that?
I believe that was the glove. So, very early item. One obviously a runner's we're gonna be looking out for. But for the bombs, for the bomb opening, I'm always interested to see what kind of strategies our runners employ here.
Yeah, you can be very consistent in, I think, the 2 most critical rooms, which are the 2 blue guards. But you do have to kind of know where to place the bombs so that the guards bounce from one bomb to the other. And if you can do that consistently, you're great. If you can't do it, then we're going to have a bit of trouble. Look at that bomb count, though. 15 because of that early bomb upgrade they got. That's going to make this escape sequence a lot less stressful. So Slothmonster with a pre-planned strat, it looks like, placing a bomb, throwing a bomb, and having the guard kind of go between the 2. BuzzThunder taking a bit more time to work through that.
Yes, BuzzThunder going with a little bit more, let's say, safe strategy there. Obviously a little bit slower. Important to note that you can run out of bombs. So our runners will have to be careful. If they do run out, they'll need to either take a death or save and quit to get a little bit back.
Slothmonster going up the staircase to make sure that that guard hits the bomb and he's well away from it. That's clever.
Yeah, as I said, one of my favorite strategies, just because there are so many different variations that you can do here.
So here's what's really fun about, or kind of annoying about the opening we got. Bombs are the only weapon where you feel guaranteed that you're going to be able to get those 3 chests at the back of escape. And if you can't get those chests because you don't get bombs, you want an early power glove so that you can lift the rocks in the graveyard and get back there without wasting time. We got both of those together.
Yeah, so the runners won't necessarily have to worry about, about those items back escape. They'll definitely be able to get them, almost certainly. But yeah, if you don't get a bomb opening and aren't able to get that bomb, not getting the power glove, BuzzThunder taking an unfortunate death there.
Yeah, that guard just was hanging out in front of the cell, so there was no way to get through except deboosting, and even then, the guard still turned around and ran in after him. That's brutal. I hate to see that happen.
Yeah, you do see his bomb count get refilled there after the death, but he's going to have to make the trip all the way back down to Zelda's cell.
Oh, that hurts. You never want to start off a run like that. If you're not careful, it can put you in the wrong mental state for everything else.
Absolutely, but the nature of Randomizer is not over by a long shot. There's still plenty of ground for BuzzThunder to make up here.
Is there ever? And a lot of this could be worse. BuzzThunder is going back through these rooms, and he doesn't have to kill those blue guards for more keys. He will have to take out that green guard on his way out, but that's only 1 guard he has to do, as opposed to 3 from before.
Yeah, and kind of the interesting consequence of this is that he's almost certainly going to be leaving escape with more bombs than Slothmonster. Probably not a big deal, but you never want to be having to buy bombs in Kakariko.
Yeah, if Slothmonster has to make a detour and spends a few rupees, which the runners haven't really picked up any so far, Buzz is going to make up a bit of time. Probably not as much as that death cost, but still a bit.
So Sloth taking a little bit of extra caution there, getting around the ropes, and gets the Ether Medallion out of the chest and sewers.
Ooh, that's always exciting to see right at the start.
Definitely better than having to worry about those later on in the run. Those are maybe one of the worst go mode items because they could literally be anywhere.
Yeah, and it also gets me thinking, when Ether shows up that early, I start thinking, okay, is it going to let me into Mire? Is it going to let me into T-Rock? And if it does, do I just go into that dungeon super early expecting that there's some progression there? Do I follow those breadcrumbs? And we'll have to see if these runners want to.
And we find the lamp, heart container, and 300 rupees.
Well,
not a bad haul.
Yeah, that takes care of all the rupee troubles at the start. And if either of these runners had any nerves about doing dark rooms, I think they don't have to worry about that.
Certainly not. And that early lamp does maybe give us a little glimpse into the logic. Opens things like Eastern Death Mountain is now available. And of course, everyone's favorite, Aghanim.
Whoa. We're not even 7 minutes into this race. Let's stay away from the worst case scenario. I kid, of course.
It's always a concern when you see that early lamp. But we got Slothmonster exiting out of Sanctuary here, and he's going to head north and probably give us a lumberjack check. Might be thinking, since he got that early lamp, it might be not a bad idea to check that and make sure you don't have a required item there.
And just 3 bombs. So not going to be required for that. Still, of course, need Hammer and Moon Pearl to completely rule Aghanim out of this seed.
Yeah, and certainly getting those power gloves early just kind of push you a little bit away from that. But we'll have to see what comes out of Kakariko, because I think that'll be pretty informative, given the number of items there are to find there.
Oh, absolutely. If we come across, the Dark World access, hey, egg is off the table. If all we find is a Master Sword, then I really start getting worried. And you'll see that thief in Slothmonster's cave in the forest changed to blue. That's due to the color of his sprite, where, the thieves share some of their colors with Link. So if you go around changing Link's colors, suddenly some of the enemies and NPCs are going to change too.
Yep, and speaking of those sprites, in case anyone had noticed, Slothmonster rocking the Zero Suit Samus sprite, and BuzzThunder with the Dark Link sprite. Always love to give a shout out to the sprite devs. They do an incredible job.
They do fantastic work. The game would be approximately 20% less fun without them. Ooh, Slothmonster finding a very early bottle in the Thieves' Hideout. That means we get to do a sick kid check on our first trip through Kakariko. I'm never going to turn that down.
Absolutely not. Definitely nice to see early on.
And look at that. Sloth's up to 7 hearts already.
Yeah, completely ignoring the other 2 5 rupee pots there. Not concerned about money in the slightest at this point.
I mean, worst case scenario, the entire game takes just over 800 rupees. Sloth's already got 700 of those. Yeah, I don't think you're concerned about 10 more rupees under pots at this point.
absolutely not.
Especially not when the back of the well is just going to force 20 rupees on you in a chest.
Early mushroom. That's maybe not what you want to see at this point.
We also saw silver arrows, and BuzzThunder gave us a map check. I think that was the red pendant up in Hera, a regular crystal in Eastern, and the green pendant in Desert.
I'm glad you caught that, because I missed it. I was watching Slothmonster get his flippers from the bottle vendor and hookshot from Chicken House.
Oh my goodness, things happening everywhere here.
So now this is interesting. Our runners have a couple of choices at this point. So we see just a 5-arrow upgrade for Slothmonster at Sick Kid. They can either go South Shore, which is kind of the standard play. It's what you'll see most runners do in these types of scenarios. But Death Mountain is actually now pretty open.
It certainly is.
So I wonder if we're going to see any sort of divergence here early if one of our runners decides to head up Death Mountain.
I think we'll probably see them continue on with the South Shore route, as it's just 10 arrows in the library. But Death Mountain is certainly an attractive play right now. And at this point, all they need is the mirror and a weapon, or the hammer, and that Hera is completely clearable. Of course, do you go out of your way to clear Hera right at the start of the seed when you know it's a pendant? That's always an open question.
Definitely a little bit of risky play. I might dip in there to check the first few items. We see Slothmonster just going to get a heart container here. He actually did not check this. He just went straight for it. Definitely something to see a little more in Key Sanity, but I've seen a few people use this strategy in Standard as well.
Yeah, I quite like just diving through it, especially when you have enough bombs, because if it's something like a heart container and you're halfway through the maze, it's worth picking up. If you check from the bottom and you see a heart container, you're not going to take the time to go pick that up. But, single heart containers, especially in the first 45 minutes of a run, can really make a difference.
It definitely can. And it's fair to point out at this point, pretty healthy seed so far. 8 heart containers already. And all we've been through is Kakariko.
All right. Health is not much of a problem. Slothmonster finds the blue male down in the dam, using that hookshot trick to clip through the block and grab the chest and pull the lever in one trip. Saves several seconds.
Yeah, very, very cool trick to be able to pull off. Saves you some time and just looks cool. And I think... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to say, I think the flippers might have pushed Slothmonster further this route. Not only can he do Mini Moldorm, but he can also do all of Lake Hylia and Zora's Domain, so a lot of checks.
Yeah, and especially with that initial rupee hoard that these runners were given. Yeah, they definitely aren't concerned about money for Zora. Ooh, there's the book down in Mini Moldorm Cave. So we do potentially have the access to full clear Desert Palace, accepting, of course, that item on the torch.
Yeah, that's maybe a little bit concerning for our runners. You probably don't want to be having to go into pendant dungeons this early. Sometimes the seed just kind of pushes you in that direction, though, and given the item set they've got, it's definitely got to be in their minds.
That's right. Over on BuzzThunder's side, he drains the dam, sees it's just a piece of heart, but heads back in. He's going to pick up Blue Mail right here and be shortly behind on his way over to that Mini Moldorm Cave. He's going to grab that piece of heart.
The Slothmonster into Ice Rod Cave here. Location that have seen some people skip, but in this version has burned more than a few runners. This time, just a heart container.
And you're completely right. Slothmonster hopped back in the water and is swimming now. You know, for a second, I thought they might take that portal and swim up to the Death Mountain area, which is a completely valid warp. But instead, Sloth is going to check out that hobo area and probably head to Zora.
Yeah, given that it's all of that stuff is open to him now, certainly makes a lot of sense.
And where's BuzzThunder off to? Is he going to go up to Ice Rod Cave as well?
Yeah, looks like he's just following the logic behind Slothmonster as well. So,
was that another heart container from Hobo?
I didn't see it, but it looks like it might have been. So
that's 10 hearts already for Slothmonster. That's incredible for 16 minutes into the race.
Yeah, no concerns at this point. I'd imagine as soon as he gets Dark World access, he'll be heading there. Usually the only thing that might slow you down from going to Dark World early once you get access is, you know, health and defense. He's got that in spades.
And we did see a check of the items sitting on Lake Hylia. That was just 5 rupees, so nothing to go back for in this race, but always useful to know. More rupees and some more bombs in the Waterfall Cave, but BuzzThunder has gone back to Link's house. Where's he headed? Down to the lake.
I'm not necessarily sure that this is faster. Probably not a huge difference in time. Regardless, it looks like he's going to be following the same route, just took the save and quit rather than swimming down from Ice Rod Cave.
And Zora Ledge didn't really have anything there for Slothmonster, but for 500 bucks, what will Zora sell you?
Just a 5-hour upgrade. So, Lake Hylia, just big bust.
Yeah, you know, despite those early flippers, they don't really provide anything at the start. Makes me wonder if Ice Palace or Swamp Palace is going to have something early for them.
Well, we'll know once we get into Dark World and we get that map check. Given that we've got 2 pendants in the Light World, obviously one of those 2 is going to be required as a crystal, at the very least.
Yeah, it's always fun when you open up your map, you see 2 pendants in the Light World, and you realize, oh no, I might have to do all of the longest dungeons in the Dark World. Certainly sets you up for a bit of a longer and potentially more draining race.
Yeah, interestingly, Slothmonster opting to go to Eastern. Gonna check Sahasrar's hut. Finds Quake. But yeah, maybe this is just kind of standard opening for him. Given the item set, I would have probably opted to go to Hookshot Cave, but we'll see if this pays off for him. 3 items, unique items in Eastern Palace, so.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason to clear this out early on, especially if you're hoping to maybe get more access to make that Death Mountain check more thorough. But on the other hand, the logic is kind of screaming, hey, I put something at Death Mountain for you. Please go pick it up.
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, this play could pay off. Could find something really important like, you know, Rune Pearl, Hammer.
Yeah, and if either one of those is here, then obviously the dip to Eastern was not only smart, but required. 20 rupees in the first chest, and BuzzThunder's walking out of Zora's domain. Is he headed up to trade in his mushroom right now?
I think he might be. This could be his best chance to turn it in, I suppose. You know, until you get that flute, it's kind of hard to get up here, so. And given how early we found it, there's a decent chance that it has progression.
A lot of this comes down to your philosophy. Are you one of those runners that says, yes, the seed gives me breadcrumbs? Are you one of those runners that says breadcrumbs are a lie? Are you one of those runners that says, well, it depends on the race? I think BuzzThunder's getting some payoff, though, by going for those breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that's a big find. You know, you can go through a large part of this game swordless, but getting that first sword is just such a huge weight off your mind.
Yeah, and, you know, depending on what else comes up, Slothmonster might get sidetracked from that sword for a long time. Depending on what sword we end up with, could make a difference, as Eastern hasn't really paid out for him just yet. And BuzzThunder's not headed to Eastern at all. He's headed up Death Mountain.
Yeah, I like this play from BuzzThunder. It's a huge... there's a lot of item density here. And at this point, the chances of finding the hammer or moon pearl up here are pretty high.
Sloth is still trekking on through Eastern, though. There's one more chest he can get to over on the left side again. And that may have an item, or it may just have the map, in which case the final item here will be on the Armos Knights.
Man, look at all those rupees. Another 300 rupee, this time from the old man.
Look, sometimes you're willing to pay any amount of money for someone to rescue you from a cave.
And Slothmonster just has the map.
Oh, so Eastern not working out at all for him. Aside from, you know, that Quake medallion from Sahasrarla's hut may be interesting for him in the future. Looks like he's going to head up Death Mountain as well.
Meanwhile, BuzzThunder's side, half magic on Spectacle Rock, which unfortunately we do not have access to yet. And Blue Cane is inside Spectacle Rock Cave. Gonna opt to skip that for now. May not even go for it at all.
Yeah, I mean, the Blue Cane is tons of fun, but I'm not sure it's worth the time to loop all the way around through Spectacle Rock just for that one item. If he ends up needing to do Hookshot Cave, he does know it's there and he can loop back for it if he wants it.
Yep, definitely. So, and Slothmonster following behind. And, you know, we talked about earlier how BuzzThunder lost a lot of time, unfortunately, dying in Escape. He's made up that time and is a little bit ahead at this point. That's Rando for you.
That's Rando. Alright, so bottom of Paradox Cave didn't give anything for Buzz, but he's able to check the top 5 chests. Bombs, arrows, more money, which is entirely useless at this point. Oh no, not the cape.
Wow,
not
okay. That is interesting. So, doesn't get the bomb jump there, unfortunately.
Not the cape, please. So there's what, 2 chests left to these players in total? At this point, without going to Aga?
They still can do Desert. Getting that book early, and I think at this point, that has to be the play. You know, Buzz could head to Eastern. We know there's nothing there, but certainly there's more than a few checks there for him. But at this point in time, unless Spiral Cave or... I can't even do Spike Cave. Unless Spiral Cave has something, I think we're heading to Desert.
Yeah, I mean, when you go over to Desert, Agina's Cave is also there, and it can pay off, and you get that item on the ledge. So those are all on the table, but boy, 1 sword, an early lamp, and an early cape. And I just say, yeah, that's going to be an Aga play. I think at this point, you're checking the desert area, but only to find the inevitable Moon Pearl.
Yeah, so... yeah, and the thing for Slothmonster, he never got that sword. And unfortunately, that is required for Aghanim.
Yeah, dang those curtains that you'll have to be able to cut. So Slothmonster is going to be, he's going to have to check every single location, including that mushroom spot. But we could see this kind of even out, because I think both runners are likely to check the entire game before finally committing to doing the Aga play.
Yeah, you will sometimes see runners make that play earlier, as soon as they have the required items for it. But it is a gamble, because if it's not required, if your progression is somewhere else in the world, then you just spent a bunch of time doing something that was completely unnecessary. So I do agree. I think both our runners are going to be checking everything they can before making that play into Aga Tower.
That's right. The absolute last thing you want to do is skip Agina's cave, do Aga Tower, find out you can't progress, and then go back to Agina's cave and realize, oh no, my hammer was there all along.
But just a 5-bomb upgrade from Agina's cave, so it's off to desert. And we don't even know if Desert Palace is going to be completable at this point. Have everything, but could be boots locked.
Here's the thing, though. Just 20 rupees on the ledge. If Desert is not boots locked, and the runners can complete it, then they're going to have a long ways to go, because they have to complete Desert. They'll get the green pendant from it, and that'll incent them to go back over to Sahasrahla before checking Aga Tower. Like, it just kind of adds them on this rabbit hole that I don't think they want to go down.
No, you definitely don't want to be kind of being strung along by a seed like this. But I think the good news for BuzzThunder here is that doing this first, I like this routing, because he can do this now. If it is completable, he gets the green pendant, and then he can head over to Eastern and turn that in before having to make that check.
Yeah, if that plays out for him, then he only has to do the one trip to the Eastern area at this point, which, saves about a minute walking over there. At this point, these runners have completed such disparate things. I'm not entirely sure which one of them would be getting up to Aga Tower first. And BuzzThunder finds that big key on the right side, so this is completable.
And the Moon Pearl is in Desert.
Did someone say Aghanim?
Yeah, I mean, there's really, at this point, only 2 more items in total that we don't know about. So it's going to come down to the second item here in Desert, and what is that green pendant? Yeah, and as for who would get to Aghanim first, I mean, it's probably Slothmonster.
Ooh. The bow in the big chest of Desert Palace, meaning that Eastern is now fully clearable, and there is still an item to find on the Armos.
What is this seed? BuzzThunder thinking about it, he's like, do I finish this, or do I go to Eastern? I think if you're here, though, you have to finish it.
Oh, absolutely. You know the position you're in, but you also know that you're, still just one item away from avoiding that Aga play, and it would be great if you could, especially when it's the green pendant, and you're going to head to that area, and you've already got the silver arrows. That makes the Landmo fight 10 times faster. Well, maybe not 10 times, 5 times faster.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes in races like these, and I think anybody who has run in a tournament race can attest, you're always thinking about that gamble. If I just, skip out on it now and it's no item, maybe my opponent does it and, I gain a little bit of time. But it's a risk.
Yeah, I've often heard runners say that the risk is, yes, I can leave that behind, but if it's an item, I lose the race because of that. And, you know, we're not even half an hour into this seed. I think at this point you don't start making those "I will lose the race because of this" gambles. Those you start making, but you start making them 90 minutes into the seed when you're one item from go mode.
Definitely. So here's our Landmo fight from BuzzThunder.
Ooh, missing those initial silver arrow shots. Some runners find it more effective to shoot at Landmo from the side since he bobs up and down a little less, but hey, BuzzThunder gets 2 hits from below right there. So that works out, and that is a pendant for him.
Yep, and he'll almost certainly be heading over to Eastern, turning in that green pendant. And if that green pendant is not the hammer or Titan's mitts, it's off to Aga.
What I don't want to see come out from there, from either Aghanim or from the Armos Knights, is the mirror. Because it still doesn't give Dark World access. It just opens up Hera for these runners to go and clear out. And, you know, if they keep being this thorough, they'll want to do that. But it's probably just going to delay the inevitability of, yeah, you have to do Aga Tower.
Yep. By the way, you know, we kind of mentioned it, but the bow, a really nice find for Slothmonster, because he really had no way of easily killing Landmo until he found it. So definitely a nice find for him. It's going to make this fight a lot easier.
Yeah, without the bow, he was probably looking at something like bombs and Burna strats, which are doable. They have happened in this tournament, but it's no fun for anyone.
Certainly not. And just 50 rupees from Sahasrala. So BuzzThunder are going to be heading through Eastern, and we'll have to see what drops off of Armos Knights.
Oh, Slothmonster almost gets that one cycle on Landmo, just being a bit too early with that third arrow. One worm left. And there we go.
Now, I think this is an interesting call for Slothmonster. He does have to go turn in that green pendant, so he's going to be in the area of Eastern to go finish it. Yeah, I was going to say it might be interesting to see if maybe he just goes straight to Aga, but that would be a very risky gamble.
Yeah, now it kind of looks like BuzzThunder's leading a bit at this point just because he's further into Aga, but did we see him do the Zora area? The Zora area? Yeah.
Yes, he did.
He did.
He save and quit after Astaroth K, which made it look like he wasn't, but he did go back there.
That's right.
Yeah, because he swam all the way back after talking to King Zora and did the mushroom.
That's right, and you know, Slothmonster had maybe been a bit ahead because he had gone through Eastern already, but since he's going to be redoing a lot of this dungeon, that's going to equalize some time here. I think BuzzThunder might have a tiny, tiny lead because he's already got that sword.
Yeah, and thank you, chat, for correcting me. Slothmonster needs that sword before he can do Aga. I even mentioned it earlier and then forgot.
That sword, of course, is hiding in the witch's hut and is gotten from trading that mushroom in, which is an awkward play to make early on. BuzzThunder doing it has, I think, gained him a fair amount of time. He's able to run through Eastern just a bit faster, and more importantly, he's not going to be looking for it as the final key to the Aga puzzle.
Yep, he'll be able to go straight there. And Sloth, I mean, that's going to be his only option at this point, is to go turn in that mushroom.
You know, it's a good thing they got the silver arrows, because you can do Aga Tower with Fighter's Sword. And with this amount of health in the blue mail, it's not particularly challenging, but it's terribly dull. The enemies have so much health because you just got the Master Sword, and they had to step up the difficulty of the enemies. So it's just a grind to walk through. and silver arrows, especially when you have like 50 of them, make it tolerable.
Yeah, not to mention, you know, the percentage chance of an Aghanim seed, Aghanim being required in the seed is relatively low, and so it's something not a lot of runners have really practiced a lot. So it definitely can be one of those things, especially if you're just on Fighter Sword, that is pretty tough. Of course, our runners have so much health and have blue mail, probably wouldn't be that bad, but silver arrows certainly make it a lot easier.
Slothmonster, without sword, doing a really nice use of Cane of Burna to take out that circle of popos. That's a nice little thing I like to see. Could do it with arrows or bombs, but that's a lot more difficult and consumes valuable ammo at this point.
Well, that seals the deal.
Yeah, no way out of it. This is an Agaseed as Slothmonster gets, and BuzzThunder's about to get a third, not even a second, but a third bottle at this point. So at this point, I think the only thing Sloth still has to do before Aga is go up to the witch's hut, and it looks like that's where he's headed to.
Yeah, it seems like Sloth is keenly aware of the fact that he has checked literally everything else, and this is his only play. Probably not going to be super happy when he gets in there and finds that sword.
And BuzzThunder, entirely out of options, is making that play.
Yep, thanks to his routing and you know, the thoroughness of his checks, he can just go straight there. Yep, this is the beauty of randomizers, that there are so many different ways to go about doing these checks, and just one little divergence in route can cause quite a massive difference.
All right, so Buzz doing the clever play here, switching over to those silver arrows, which take out basically every enemy in the game, including this tower, in one hit.
Yeah, I believe only Vitreous and Ganon being the only two enemies that don't die in one hit.
That sounds about right. And Slothmonster on that track as well. Aga Tower is essentially a combination of two things. One is knowing specific strats to kill enemies in rooms as quickly as possible when they're going to drop keys. And the other is knowing your way through a bunch of rooms, avoiding enemies. BuzzThunder here, unfortunately, maybe not totally confident with this maze, having a bit of trouble finding that key in a chest on the left side.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier that this is something that some runners don't get a lot of practice with. It's not something you plan for typically. So it seems to be true in BuzzThunder's case. He was trying to get around to find that chest. It took him a little bit.
And Slothmonster seems to be a bit more confident going straight for that key chest and taking a more direct route through the maze.
I think BuzzThunder, forgetting that this is not a key room, killing some enemies, maybe was farming for hearts potentially, but taking a little bit too much time there.
And Slothmonster, to the best of his ability, using the hookshot to stun a lot of enemies, meaning you can just walk past them instead of trying to take them out. Nice silver arrow shot onto that blue guard as Slothmonster takes an edge going up the tower.
Yeah, I think this is definitely good. You know, if you're thinking about, well, should I practice Aga Tower? Do it. Get some practice in for it, because when it does happen, you want to be ready for it and be able to get it done as quickly as possible.
All right, both runners using silver arrows now as they sync up coming to the Circle of Pots room. The ideal strategy here involves using pots to kill that red guard in the center like Sloth did. But you also ideally want the boomerang for this room, and in Rando, that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I want to say I saw that Slothmonster does have some NMG experience, so not surprising that he looks a little more confident going through this section of the game.
Yeah, absolutely correct. In NMG, this is one of those spots that can be very, very well optimized because every room is so individual and so disconnected from each other room. It's just a series of quick movements doing things over and over and over. And if you can optimize that, you'll have a much faster tower climb, as we saw from Slothmonster there. And now we get cutscene time as something bad happens to Zelda. I think there's a story in this game sometimes.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one. The only plot I'm aware of is Link eating all the items and killing Ganon. But regardless, we have dueling Aga fights here.
Yeah, so the Aghanim RNG is really interesting. He works in cycles of 5. And the first attack he does in every cycle is always going to be an energy ball that you can reflect. The next 3 are going to be 50-50 energy ball versus blue ball that you can't do anything with. And then the 5th attack in the cycle is always that lightning from the top. In the NMG race, this is a huge spot of variability because Aghanim might give different runners different coin flips. But in Randomizer, we sync it up so that both runners are getting the same terrible blue balls. And optimally done, this fight takes the same amount of time. BuzzThunder does need to potion there, though.
Aghanim immune to silver arrows, shockingly. But yeah, BuzzThunder just using normal slashes, so those blue balls are actually hitting him. Had to use his blue potion to survive this fight.
If you stand directly to the left or right of Aghanim, then the blue balls won't hurt you. The pattern they disperse in means that they're going to go around you instead of into you. But standing below does mean you can get hit. As Sloth finishes up that fight, and BuzzThunder does as well.
That was a pretty awful Aga 1 fight. So many blue balls there.
6 is pretty high. The average is somewhere between 2 and 3 as a mean distribution. So getting all the way up to 6 is just nasty. Only mitigated because you know your opponent's doing the same thing. Slothmonster is headed to Palace of Darkness without the hammer, and BuzzThunder is headed across the river. This is a big divergence that really could shake things up.
Yeah, you know, after the initial part of this seed kind of led us in a single direction, forcing our runners to check literally everything in the light world. Now it is a little bit more open with that hook shot and with the bow. And we see that Pod is actually our other pendant with that map check from Slothmonster.
And 5 and 6 crystals, I think, at Thieves Town and Misery Mire. Pendant Pod without the hammer is actually a really interesting play. And I kind of like it. Because without the hammer, you can get to every single chest in this dungeon. Except for, of course, Helmasaur. So you can potentially get your 5 items out of Pod right now. And Pod's Pod. It tends to have a lot of progression in it.
Yeah, definitely. 5 items in Pod. You know, obviously, can do everything except for Helmasaur King, as you said. So yeah, progression is here, and BuzzThunder opts to go the northern route. could be a long while before he gets back to pod.
Of course, without the mirror, pod is absolutely painful to do routing in, because the standard route involves warping back to the start over and over and over, and you just can't do that if you don't have the mirror.
Yep, also missing boots, which can make your routing a little bit easier. Allows you to bonk back from this ledge over here that Slothmonster is at now. And just, makes getting around in general a lot more easy.
Yeah, it by no means is the utility of the mirror restricted to Palace of Darkness. So over on BuzzThunder's side, he has done that hookshot across the river play that I know trips up a lot of runners the very first time they have to play it. Because you go, what? I shouldn't be able to get over there with this equipment. But this is going to lead him. Looks like he's going to check Bumper Cave Ledge. He is... unfortunately gets the accidental screen transition there. But then he can head into the village and start clearing Thieves Town and Skull Woods.
Yep. Can't complete the Skull Woods until he finds that fire rod, but Thieves Town, absolutely completable for him at this point. So, and it's also a 5/6 crystal. So this is another, I think, one of those, kind of runner preferences. Some people like to be a little more thorough and check locations that are closer by to them. Others just say, I want to go straight for crystal dungeons. Let me do the crystal dungeons I can finish, get those out of the way.
Now, of course, and this also comes down to runner preference, dipping into Thieves Town without the hammer, you can clear it, but there's that nagging feeling of, what if there's an item in the big chest? Because I don't want to go all the way back for that basement.
Yep. Slothmonster does find Bombo says all 3 medallions. So no more having to worry about Misery Mire and Turtle Rock being able to get into those dungeons.
Interestingly, taking the save and quit to head back into the Dark World by that Aga portal instead of clearing out the back part of Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, typically speaking, the front end pod is usually fairly key heavy. It just kind of has to be for the logic to work. Make sure you don't get yourself soft locked. Typically speaking, you'll find a lot of the items in pod in the back. So, yeah, I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that, but found Bombos, and I guess felt like that was maybe all he was going to find in there.
BuzzThunder gets bunny beamed there inside Thieves Town and turns into a slightly distorted version of the normal Link sprite. That's always funny to see walking around because it has that weird bunny animation that makes it look just slightly wrong for Dark Link. I love it.
I didn't get to see it again there because he got hit right after getting bunny beamed, but it's already cleared out the first 4 chests and is going to be heading into the back of Thieves Town here. And Slothmonster are going to be following shortly behind here.
The seats where this happens are just kind of nasty to these runners because you have to loop so far around to really get to any chests. You have to walk all the way across North Dark World. And all it takes is, say, jumping down that ledge south of the Village of Outcasts. And now you're stuck in the South Dark World, and you can't get back up to the north. So you have to be so much more thorough with your routing and so much more confident in sticking to your decisions, or else you end up just walking through the same patch over and over and over. It's not a fun place to be in, and it always just gets you worried, oh no, what's my opponent doing? Did they just blaze ahead to something great?
Yep, and you know, I know I keep harping on it, but also not something you're used to seeing. You know, if you're an experienced runner and you've done a lot of randomizer, this is probably a situation that's come up, you know, maybe a handful of times. For someone who's maybe a little bit new, this can be really kind of, it can be really nerve-wracking because just like I'm not sure how to route this. It's so outside of my usual norm.
Slothmonster's heading into Thieves Town as well. You know, as we said, going to be able to clear out this whole thing, except for that big chest in the basement, but no items other than an excess of rupees coming BuzzThunder's way so far.
Yeah, and unfortunately at this point there are a lot of possibilities about where our progression could be. Still 2 items in Skull Woods that our runners have yet to check on. They can get to the South Dark World area. Hype Cave is available to them.
I mean, at some level, I fully expect Hype Cave to have the progression for these runners. On the other hand, I do not blame them in the slightest for putting it off, because once you go down there, you're not coming back.
Yeah, you need to get everything you can done here. And unfortunately, we have that small key. It looks like, if I'm not mistaken, both the compass and map have been found by this point.
Yeah.
Our final item is in that big chest.
All right, BuzzThunder not quite getting the blind script that a lot of runners like to go for, where you can keep blind at the top. But with the cape, he's able to just turn invisible there and take blind out. No trouble at all in phase 3 for a piece of heart.
Yeah, so definitely something that everyone's got to keep in the back of their minds. Once they find that hammer, you know, how soon do you go back to Thieves Town? I mean, I'm sure they're going to be putting it off until they're stuck, but that is always a concern.
I mean, despite all we've said about this seed being mean, there are some points of light in it. We do have a 5/6 crystal cleared already. We do have 2 crystals, at least, completed. Both runners have, you know, cleared up Desert Palace and traded something into Sahasrahla, which means they don't have to worry about that anymore. We do have all 3 medallions on Slothmonster's side, which means he doesn't have to be nervous about Turtle Rock and Misery Mire entrances. There are some good things about this seed. It's just being very slow in what it gives out to let the runners progress.
Yeah, I think you'd probably find a lot of people who would take something like this over, say, a seed that kind of spoils you early. Because these types of seeds tend to kind of snowball a little bit at the end. You know, once our runners start getting that progression, it's probably going to, I imagine, going to be becoming pretty heavy. And then they'll just be able to kind of quickly go through all their crystal dungeons. Especially if they can, you know, go mode dungeons like Swamp Palace and Ice Palace. Make the end of their run so much quicker. But it does come at the cost of these early moments and just, you know, struggling to get through.
All right, what's Stumpy got for us today? Just more arrows. The number of arrow drops and upgrades these runners have received is crazy. Like, BuzzThunder's walking around with 50 arrows, and they're silver arrows at this point. These runners are so safe.
Yeah, it's been nothing but rupees and arrows to this point. So, I mean, I have to imagine Hype Cave, it's got to have progression, right? And if not, then we're looking at either Skull Woods or what Slothmaster skipped out on in Palace of Darkness.
That's what it's coming down to, yeah. Oh, look! More arrow capacity. A shield. A heart container. The hammer!
There it is.
BuzzThunder, I
You
think,
see-
pausing for a second, deciding on where he wants to go next with this new value. I think at this point, you head to Palace of Darkness, because with the hammer, the routing of it gets so much easier, and, you know, it's actually something new unlocked. That said, Tower of Hera is also in play and fully clearable.
Sure is. Probably gonna be a little reluctant to go up there since he really can't do much else other than that. But yeah, the hammer, while a nice find, it does, you know, obviously means our runners have more access to Dark World portals in the Light World, but doesn't really open all that much up for us.
Yeah, I think the main benefit at this point of the hammer is at least, well, while you're still searching for progression, it doesn't feel like pulling teeth just to get around the world.
Yeah, and once again, just another point about the seed being mean. So it was pretty much requiring you to, I mean, obviously we don't know what else is in Palace of Darkness, but it's requiring you to route all the way down from North Dark World to South Dark World, the Hype Cave, to get that hammer.
And in doing so, you walk by Thieves Town, you figure, I'm going to check Thieves Town while I'm here, which means now that chest in the basement that we know has an item is going to go unchecked for a long time.
Yeah, this seed just keeps finding new ways to hassle our runners.
I like that word. It's not that this seed is trolling the runners. It's just causing them a lot of inconvenience. It's definitely hassling them.
Yeah, so, and now on Slothmonster's side, now finding that hammer, what does he end up doing? Because he's already, you know, gone partway through Palace of Darkness here. And you can see him thinking, I think, a little bit there.
I think he is headed over to Palace of Darkness, but there's definitely a bit of reluctancy, a bit of, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, I'm sure just having that oh no moment.
I think he's headed up to Catfish.
Yeah, I think wanting to put off having to double dip pod as long as he can. Not going to find what he's looking for, unfortunately, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Once you've made that decision, you said, I'm dipping out in a dungeon, it's so hard to kind of put that feeling aside and just say, okay, I'm going back in.
Alright, so I expect now that BuzzThunder's in here, he is going to do the full clear, or at least, at the very least, the back part of Palace of Darkness. I believe that's his third key he's picked up, and the front part of Pod always needs 4 keys in it at minimum to prevent that key locking you mentioned earlier. So, if he's been counting that properly, I think he should know that the vanilla big key chest is just a small key, and he can avoid doing that if he's aware of that. So he should be able to go straight to the back here.
Yep. Definitely something to keep in mind when you're routing Pod. Can be a little bit hard to follow that key logic, but once you kind of understand it, it can certainly make your life a lot easier.
Oh, never mind. He already checked that chest. So there's no way he can avoid checking it right now. But regardless of that, he's still going to head to the back half. And this is where we're going to see the items really start to come out. Bombing that wall right now so that he doesn't have to worry about it later. Ooh, taking a frustrating fall, so he has to reset the room.
Yeah, those mini Helmosaurs are, that one in particular, pretty obnoxious.
So, what's he going to find back here? The Mitts maybe open up... I guess the Mitts open up Ice Palace for him. The Mirror would open up Swamp Palace.
Yeah, there are plenty of different things that could push him in one direction or another. Fire Rod could send him over to Skull Woods.
That's right, Skull Woods, which neither runner has dipped into at all so far. And Buzz finding nothing downstairs.
I think both our runners feeling like, since Skull Woods was not completable at that point in time, that they wanted to put it off. But again, if progression is there, then they're going to have to make a huge loop back around to get over to it again.
Oh no, Slothmonster heading into the Dark Maze here without the big key, which is in the Turtle Room. This is going to be a frustrating turn for him, as he might have to do a lot of backtracking for this.
And is our progression in the big key chest? No, it's not. So BuzzThunder probably going to be heading to finish off Helmosaur King.
That's right, setting up a Death Warp here just to get back to the entrance a bit faster, rather than walking all the way through the maze and exiting that way.
Now, another thing that I might feel a little bit bad about pointing out, because I pointed out Aga early and it came to fruition, but all three of our pendant dungeons are completable.
And so does that mean anything special?
Well,
do we need to ask chat for some help on that? I think they're sometimes interested in this.
There's a certain item that is only obtainable after you get all three pendant dungeons.
Really? Tell me more about this certain item.
There is a location in the back of Lost Woods where, in the normal game, you would find a Master Sword. In this game, can have an item. So, for BuzzThunder, I'm definitely going to complete this dungeon. Obviously, one more item left on Helmosaur King, but also getting that pendant just in case. There is a pedestal seed.
You know, with the number of locations these runners have available dwindling and dwindling, it's got to be on their minds that, oh no, I might have to do all of that.
Meanwhile, Slothmonster taking a little bit of a risk here. He is not going to finish off Palace of Darkness, and it's instead, I think, going to head up to Death Mountain. Or? It juked me there.
I thought he was headed for Death Mountain as well, but with this play over into Kakariko area, I'm thinking not Firewoods, Skullwoods.
Yeah, and he could also opt to check the pedestal. He does have the book.
If that's on his mind, yeah. Oh, he's going north. There's only one reason to go this way. Ladies and gentlemen, get those ped emotes in chat if you are so inclined. Because Slothmonster's about to find out something really important here. BuzzThunder doing those 17 hits very quickly. Oh my goodness!
Oh, no.
Oh my goodness! Mirror on the pedestal, BuzzThunder gaining a lead at this point, perhaps, because he's just taken out Helmosaur for a second pendant. But BuzzThunder does not yet know that this is a pedestal seed for that mirror.
Oh my goodness. So, for Slothmonster, he does get that knowledge, but also he dipped out of pod before completing it. So we know he's going to be required to, and he knows at this point, he's going to be required to go back there and finish that.
Yeah, he's going up to Hera, of course, the long way, because he can't do the short way, because the mirror for the short way is on the pedestal. But he's going up to Hera with a lot of determination, which is great to see. He's going to have tons of confidence doing this. The problem is BuzzThunder's just checking this as a normal course of his investigations, and it's going to work out for BuzzThunder too. And having cleared Helmasaur already, BuzzThunder's going to get a substantial lead from this.
Yeah, I think the lesson here is if you're in a Penda dungeon, even if you think it's a remote possibility, if you can get to the boss and finish it, you should do it. The time spent doing it, yeah, you might lose a little bit of time. But in the case that it is required, Slothmonster's going to have to spend a considerable amount of time getting back there and finishing off Helmasaur.
Oh, no question. Now, one good bit of news for Slothmonster and BuzzThunder. They've got the book. While they're up here, they can check on Ether. They can't get the item from Ether, but they'll find out that it's the ice rod up there.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, the laugh there.
That's actually fantastic knowledge for them to have. They can't get it now, but surely they'll have a second sword before they have to do Turtle Rock, and then it'll just fall into place for them.
Yeah, I mean, of all the places for Ice Rod to be, that's not the worst by any stretch. So, good knowledge to have.
I've played Seeds where that's the worst spot for Ice Rod because you didn't have the book. This early book is giving Slothmonster so much information that I'm kind of not even mad about the hoops they have to jump through. Earlier on we were saying, oh, it's too bad they have to go all the way through desert. They have to clear out landmos just to find out it's Agaseed. In the end, that works to their advantage because now they don't have to do it to get Mirror.
Yeah, I mean, are we sure they didn't get a Plando seed? Because that's what it's starting to feel like.
This does feel like the kind of seed that someone puts together just to go, ha ha ha, look how much running around you have to do. Oh no, and the fetch quests continue with the shovel coming out in Tower of Hera. That's one of the two items.
A Slothmonster opting to just go straight to the boss.
No, he's going to loop around here.
Never mind.
If you're not doing the bomb jump, it's actually faster, counterintuitively, to loop around the top and drop down than it is to hookshot straight to that chest and walk across.
Yes, you're correct there. If he had the boots, he would do it, but doing it the just kind of vanilla route is faster unless you're doing the bomb jump.
Yeah, now, doing the bomb jump is always going to be faster if you get it right. If you mess it up, you fall 2 floors, and you still don't have the item. So no one wants to do that if they're worried at all about falling. Slothmonster and BuzzThunder both in the Boldorm fight now. Hammer means only 3 hits required.
Yep, a little bit more of a dangerous fight than using sword spins, but there's no danger of getting into that fast phase of Moldorm with sword pokes. So Slothmonster getting it done, gets the final item.
Ooh, BuzzThunder almost took a fall there, but managed to stay on. And that is the Tower of Hera and the red pendant for both runners, as we get some great sync there. But more importantly, BuzzThunder's got all 3 pendants. Are we going to see him just go and blind pull the ped for the heck of it right now?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't really see what other options he has. I think he might check Spike Cave here. Yeah.
Oh, I like this. I like this. This is the only time you're going to be up in the area for a while. Might as well knock it out while you can.
Yeah, definitely a good idea to do it now. But, unless there is some sort of progression here that pushes him away from the pedestal, I fully expect to see him go do that as soon as possible.
And 20 bucks for walking over spikes. Slothmonster's headed back to Palace of Darkness. I think on this trip, he can just walk straight to Helmasaur and get that third pendant.
Yeah, I believe he has checked everything else, so it'll be straight to the boss. Meanwhile, BuzzThunder gonna check that shovel spot and then probably route that in with his pedestal check.
Interesting to see him putting off the pedestal for a bit here. It's almost like he's going, nah, it can't be. It can't be.
Yeah, I think given how thorough he's been so far, I'm not necessarily shocked to see this.
No, you're completely right to use the word thorough. I think that's a good descriptor of how BuzzThunder has been playing this seed. He's never been leaving things behind, trying to route things in, so even if it takes longer to get there the first time, when you return to a spot, you get to do it all at once. Slothmonster leaving a couple things behind, and the way this seed has played out means he has to backtrack a lot.
Yeah, interesting. I was kind of a little bit too focused on BuzzThunder, but I guess Slothmonster skipped out on... Oh, he skipped out on this chest.
He did skip out on this chest. He opened the door but didn't grab the chest, and of course that chest having a small key, he needs that to get to Helmasaur. He also, because he did the early Dark Maze play before he had the big key, he hasn't grabbed the item from the big chest yet. Now,
okay, that explains
he may not go back for it because he knows that Pet is required. That's the main reason he's in this dungeon. But BuzzThunder is going to blind pull, and we'll see how he reacts when he gets that mirror right here.
Just take a moment.
just that slight hesitation before the save and quit. That, I guess I did do that.
Okay.
And then he's very quick to realize, okay, there's an obvious sequence here. He's headed straight to this Dark World portal here. I think he's going to head into Swamp Palace because now that's a full clear. It's an annoying full clear. It's one you want to go mode, but there's 6 items in there. And gosh, the mirror did just come up and kind of point you directly at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few overworld locations that are available to him now. So it looks like he's going to go check those real fast. But otherwise, yeah, the seed's kind of pointing you this direction. I would think unless you find something crazy here, he's going to be going to Swamp. There's just too many items in there to ignore.
Yeah, I do like checking on this location first, just to make sure it's not a bit of crazy progression that helps you otherwise. And it's, I think, the very last arrow upgrade in the game for him.
Did catch on Slothmonster's side a ether medallion kill of those turtles in the one turtle dark room.
Yeah, that's clever. You know, conventional play is to spin attack those turtles, but that only works with Master Sword. And if you don't have Master Sword, it's certainly easier to just say, you know what, take the 5 extra seconds, use ether, clean them all up.
And Slothmonster gets his Helmasaur King kill. We'll get his final pendant and be able to go get his mirror. So as far as items we still need from the game, we still need to find that flute. We still need to find another sword. We need the fire rod. We know where the ice rod is. And we need the Cane of Samaria.
That's right. For being well over an hour into this seed, we've collected a lot. We know a lot. But there's a lot more to go.
Yeah, just it's kind of crazy how many items are still required. So I fully expect there to be something here in Swamp.
Yeah, I think so, and I think this is going to be one of those seeds where you just kind of start following whatever comes up. If you get Mitts from here, you go to Ice Palace. If you get Fire Rod from here, you go to Skullwoods. If you get Flute from here, well, Flute doesn't give you anything at the moment. But when you get Flute and Mitts, then you go to Misery Mire. Or Dark Death Mountain for Samaria, and then Misery Mire. There's just so much on the table still after an hour and 15, because this seed is just one of those linear ones.
Yeah, and I imagine we'll see BuzzThunder go, for the left side on his first path through here. You'll sometimes see runners skip out on it at first, but given how much is still needed, there's no way you're skipping it. You might as well get it done here and now.
And Slothmonster picks up that mirror and leaves 2 bombs behind on the pedestal, rather displeased with what he found, or with the inevitable thing he knew he was going to get there.
So Slothmonster following right behind. I mean, as you said, this has been a pretty linear seed, so not much in the way of choices for him.
It's been very linear, and yet we've seen the lead go back and forth several times. I think Slothmonster does have a bit of the execution edge between these 2 runners. That's why we saw him take the lead in Aga Tower. BuzzThunder remembering the hard way that Fighter's Sword doesn't reach across that block in the center of the room. You need Master Sword or bombs or something else to beat it. But, BuzzThunder with his thorough routing keeps getting that lead back. This is going to stay a close race.
Yep. Just Slothmonster making a few gambles that didn't work out in his favor. But, given what I would say is his execution advantage, now that he is kind of back on track, could start to see him close that gap a little bit. All right, so BuzzThunder are going to be heading up to the left side here. What is going to be in these 2 chests?
I'm going to guess a piece of heart and 10 arrows. Gloves are going to be in the back half of this dungeon.
Are there even any 10 arrow drops left?
I'm not sure, and I don't even care anymore, because the boots are nice to find at this point when you still have so much running to do left in this dungeon and the whole seed.
Yeah, definitely a nice find. Not necessarily required at this point. There's still a possibility that it could be required for the seed to be finished, but you're never going to complain about getting boots.
No, unfortunately, it does open, those 2 other locations up by Sanctuary, and that King's Tomb spot, when you don't already have Titan's Mitts, is a bit frustrating to get to. You do have to warp from the Dark World, but hey, we've got the mirror now. We can do that.
Yep, this seed slowly but surely opening up for our runners. Unfortunately, not finding the big key in the front half of Swamp, so either going to have to come back in after completing the dungeon to get that, or do a little bit of backtracking through that one horrible door.
All right, in the back half, we get a heart container. We do get that big key. BuzzThunder opting not to go turn in with that big chest right away. Or he is, but not taking the immediate staircase there. He's gonna head through a room that the game normally only puts there as a bit of a trick for you. But this will get him back to the front half, and he can open that big chest.
Potentially has had some bad experiences with that other staircase.
I mean, that is quite literally a trick staircase that I think if you don't bonk to fix the camera properly, when you try to step up that staircase, you just get sent back down it immediately.
So just a small detour from that spot. Finds a single rupee in that big chest. And just 2 items left in Swamp. There has to be progression here, right? I mean, not necessarily, but...
I mean, there's a crystal. We're guaranteed a crystal. And
yeah,
at this point, it's down to Argus. The thing is, the mirror unlocked Swamp. It also unlocked Cave 45, which Buzz has checked. The Graveyard Ledge is in play because of that. Maybe that's where we're supposed to be. Yep. Maybe what we'll get is a sword, and then we have to go do the Bombos tablet.
Well, I'm not putting anything past this seed after what we've seen so far. But we're going to get some menu strats here from BuzzThunder, only having that fighter sword.
That's right. With fighter sword, your options are basically spin attacks with the sword, or pull the puffs out, menu to the hammer, and go back. BuzzThunder managing to get 2 at once on a single menu transition. That's useful, and it looks like he's getting down the rhythm of how to menu for this.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about menu strats is how easy or difficult it is depends a lot on the items you have currently, just because of the way Link to the Past menu is programmed.
I am so happy they have that shovel right now, because if they did not, these menu strats would be excruciating.
Just 2 puffs to go. 1.
Okay, the good news is you've got silver arrows. So as long as the first half of the Argus fight took, if BuzzThunder wants, he can just start spamming silver arrows to take out Argus. And yeah, you might miss a few times, but it's only 1 hit required.
Yeah, so the hard part out of the way for him now. Gets him on the 3rd arrow. Just a red boomerang.
So all that work, clearing out the entirety of Swamp Palace, and all we get is the red meringue and the red footwear. I'm starting to think that maybe the true progression was actually the boots here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, really the only other thing that they could have checked was... The only other item available to them was the Graveyard Ledge. So the boots does unlock a few more locations. Almost tablet having nothing.
Now, of course, neither runner has stepped foot into Skull Woods yet, which is a bit surprising at this point in the run. I know many people like to check it their first trip through the Dark World, and neither runner's done it so far. We may be reaching the point where it turns out that progression is something like the Mitts just sitting in the front half of Skull Woods. BuzzThunder, unfortunately, not going to be able to enter the King's Tomb here without those Titan's Mitts.
Yep, he's going to need to go to the Dark World first and mirror into that spot. Yeah, I think just unfortunately the way the seed has played out, both our runners were really hesitant to go into Swamp the first time around. And then once they got away from it, they didn't have easy access to that area anymore. And there's our flute.
Look, the flute is fantastic to have. It lets you get around the world so much faster. It opens up 0 right now without those mitts.
Yep. So Buzz just going to go activate his flute, and then he's got to go into the Dark World from here. I think it probably makes sense for him to check Swamp finally.
Now, I hate to say this. There is one more spot available. There's Graveyard Ledge, there's Skull Woods. And in the Dark World, right where BuzzThunder's standing now, there's that chest they had to pass up in Thieves Town. They've got the hammer now.
I mean, sure. Why not?
I think it's the last chest you check. I think every other chest is going to be faster and probably has a higher rate of return in all probability. But you just, at this point, you just start getting frustrated by the number of repeat checks this seed is not forcing you to do, but heavily suggesting that you do.
Yeah, and the good news for BuzzThunder, at least, is all of his major checks are in this area. So he can do Skull Woods, he can go do Graveyard Ledge, King's Doom, and then if progression is still not in any of those locations, he can go back. Thieves Town is right there. So I think this works out well for him.
Alright, 2 possible items in Skull Woods as Slothmonster finds out, yeah, it's just couch cash on Bombo's tablet.
Yep, and without that Fire Rod, of course, still can't get to the final 2 items that are in the back half, so...
First 2 chests only having a small key and a compass, so BuzzThunder's running out of possibilities here. He can check this chest, the vanilla big key chest, and there's the big key, so he can bomb jump over to the big chest right now.
Yeah, we'll see how comfortable he is with bomb jumps. This one can be a slight bit tricky. Looks like he's gonna... I think he's trying to set up a dash strat there with it.
Unfortunately, that bomb needs to go below where he's standing, or it'll just throw him sideways. Using the hookshot to pick up more bombs, fortunately. And Slothmonster...
I think he's going to be fine.
No, that bomb needs to be below him. It looks like he's going to loop around, drop in from the top the dev intended way.
Yeah, not... I mean, this... Once you fail a couple times, you know, if you're not comfortable with it, you know, go with this. It's not that bad.
Over on Slothmonster's side, he's picked up that flute, and I expect he will make the same checks in the same order. $20 in that big chest.
Yep, so that is 1 item down. 1 more item location left in Skull Woods, and BuzzThunder's going to skip out on it.
Ooh.
It's a risky play, and kind of goes against the grain of what we've seen from him so far.
I'm not surprised to see a runner leave it behind. I'm surprised to see BuzzThunder, in particular, leave it behind after what else we've seen from him. Alright, we got Graveyard Ledge here. We're then about to have King's Tomb. Either one of these could give us... You know, I'm starting to think it's Titan's Mitts coming next.
Yep, Titan's Mitts.
Oh, hey!
Called it. Titan's Mitts opens up Misery Mire. Opens up that area for us, at least. Misery Mire still not completable without the King of Samaria.
Misery Mire area. Ice Palace. Dark Death Mountain. All on the table now.
Yeah, that 1 item actually just completely opened up the seed.
And you know, that is a bit frightening. You do kind of wish that you found at least the Fire Rod or Samaria before you found those gloves and opened up everything. They are also still going to need another sword, but at least those can be easier to find because there's 3 more of them sitting around.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Misery Mire, I'd probably check that area. Check Mire Shed, check Checkerboard Cave. As far as, where to go next, I think Dark Death Mountain is a pretty appealing play. One, you'll get information on Turok, but they already have all 3 medallions, so it's less of a concern. But you do get to check Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny Cave, which are pretty item-dense locations.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if either runner has any concerns about execution, about survivability, half magic's sitting up on Spectacle Rock, and it's basically free for the taking.
BuzzThunder indeed electing to go to Misery Mire first. We'll see what's in the Mire Shed and at Checkerboard Cave.
Well, there's that Fire Rod.
Yep, very important item. It's going to allow them to complete Skull Woods now. Yeah, and I guess you want to put Ice Palace off. I like to put it off for as long as possible, just so I could potentially go mode it. But we'll see if any other runners elects to do it and just get it out of the way now. It is a crystal. You're going to have to do it eventually anyways. And the other 2 dungeons are off the table at the moment.
I mean, Misery Mire's open. You could step into it. You could go looking for items. It's just there's only 2 items, and they are so far, or you might have to clear so much of that dungeon, and in doing so, it might only give you 1 item. I totally understand the reluctance to do that. You don't want to go in there without Samaria if you can avoid it. This has gone from a seed that was aggressively linear to being one that just kind of leaves too much on the table at once and makes for some really tough decisions to be making 90 minutes into the race. The divergence we saw at the start was fine because the runners got bottlenecked at the tower. We knew they'd kind of come to the same conclusions. Now, one runner going to Ice, one going to Mire could make the whole difference.
Yeah, and we'll see if BuzzThunder's play up to Dark Death Mountain pays off here. Master Sword and Tempered Sword! Are you kidding me?
So at the very least, this was absolutely worth the time. Even if Hookshot Cave is completely dry, getting 2 sword upgrades there saves him time in every other dungeon he's doing.
That is an incredible find.
As a bonus, while he's up here, he can just mirror to the Light World, go over and collect his Ice Rod right now, and then he doesn't have to get it on a future trip up the mountain.
Yep, and he can get that half magic you mentioned as well, so...
And Hookshot Cave coming up with nothing else for him. Oh, he is going to save and quit out of here.
He was thinking about it. I guess, potentially from his perspective, he may be thinking he needs to come back up later anyways to finish off T-Rock. Maybe he's thinking he gets those 2 items when he's on his way up there.
Yeah, time-wise, I'm sure it works out pretty well. It'll probably less than a 5-second difference between going over there now and taking the slower path up the mountain that takes him by Ether in the future.
I would probably disagree with it only for the fact that you still have to finish Ice Palace, and having that half magic for Ice Palace will make it a fair bit easier. But he can always grab those on his next trip back up. So
yeah, and he has taken that Fire Rod now, headed to Skull Woods. He knows he can clear out the rest of that, get that 1 remaining item, and grab another crystal, and that'll be his 4th. They are making progress through the seed. They are getting crystals, just not at the rate they wish they were.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously an hour and 35 minutes in here, and really, I can't really fault the runners in any sense. I think they've both played the seed, Slothmonster, a few of his routing decisions have not paid off, but I don't think they played C poorly. It's just this is kind of the hand they've been dealt. Yeah, anytime you have a pedestal seed, Aga required seed, you're expecting your time to be up in the 2-hour range. So I'd say they played it pretty well.
Yeah, when it's pedestal and Aga, both in one seed, you're actually clearing every single dungeon in the game, and you're forced to do that. Especially with the number of dungeons Slothmonster in particular is doing entirely on Fighter Sword. You kind of take any time you can get.
Yeah, and Slothmonster got his Fire Rod from the Mire Shed and immediately heading back here to Skull Woods. So his Mothula fight going to be slightly more difficult. He's got a lot of health and blue mail, so not too bad, but Fighter Sword Mothula, never very much fun.
Yeah, and I think he also stopped off at the Witch's Hut, bought some potions there, using his abundance of rupees. So, we can see he's got a blue potion. If it comes down to it, he can just keep drinking those potions, start using the Fire Rod on Moth. It's 8 shots, but those shots are a lot easier than, say, hammer hits.
Most definitely. We see BuzzThunder not even going to mess around with these Gibdos. Just bombosing them out of existence.
And Slothmonster using the silver arrows on them. Regular arrows do nothing to Gibdos. Silver arrows take them out in a hit. It's a massive power spike with those arrows, and Slothmonster, I think, clears that room a bit faster.
He sure does. He's probably going to take a little bit longer on the Mothula fight just in general. Well, since BuzzThunder only needs to land 4 hits, 4 spikeless hits on Mothula, of course. But both our runners dropping in at pretty much the same time.
And Sloth immediately taking that magic refill to keep using that Fire Rod. BuzzThunder takes very little time to take out Mothula. Gets only a piece of heart for his troubles. But that is the 4th crystal for him.
Yep, and that is our final item in Skull Woods. Which means I think we're off to Ice Palace.
It's a full clear of Ice Palace or a dip into Misery Mire that you probably can't complete. I think you go to Ice Palace.
I'm interested to see where BuzzThunder is headed here.
He's... You don't have to do dungeons. You did just unlock the Smith, the Hammer Pegs, the Purple Chest. Those could all have something for you.
Yeah, and it looks like he is going to be making those overall checks. Meanwhile, Slothmonster heading back in here. We found both our items in Skull Woods, no?
We did. There was a big 20 in the big chest, and then that piece of heart on Mothula. Slothmonster might just have skipped that front half. I know that's a thing a lot of runners do, is if they have the Fire Rod, they go straight to the back. And then kind of clear it back to front.
I thought I saw him do it earlier, but it's possible he did skip it.
He may just have lost count as well.
It's definitely possible, and given kind of the grueling nature of this seed so far, it's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, keeping count of your chests when you do a dungeon once, easy. When you're double dipping and triple dipping multiple dungeons, it gets a lot harder. BuzzThunder using those fantastic hammer dashes to clear out those pegs quickly.
So much fun. He'll get a bottle for his trouble. And Slothmonster going to be heading up to Dark Death Mountain. Will be getting his Tempered Sword here momentarily.
So this works well for Buzz. It's only 20 rupees from the smith, but he can step out, he can take this portal, grab the purple chest, mirror again, and just flute down to 7. Because of the time he got the mirror and everything else, he's already cleared South Dark World. He doesn't have to worry about that stuff now. It makes this purple chest delivery a bit less painful, and certainly it's starting to feel like, come on, let's check the overworld before we fully commit to clearing out Ice Palace.
Yeah, because, you know, once again, the difference between full clearing Ice Palace and go moding it cannot be overstated how much better that is.
Sloth gets his 2 sword upgrades here. At this point, we're down to 1 item left. All we need is that Cane of Samaria. And as long as the runners remember, hey, that ice rod's over on Ether Tablet, that's all they need. As soon as that cane shows up, we're in go mode.
Yep, so I'm sure, definitely hoping for it in, you know, one of these early chests in Ice Palace, because that will obviously allow you to just head straight down the Cold Stair.
Well, at least we have an early big key, so that limits the amount of backtracking Buzz is going to have to do in some of the later parts of this dungeon. Slothmonster, using that mirror over back in the west part of Death Mountain, going to grab that ice rod right now, and probably that half magic before Ice Palace. Yep.
Obviously, the play we mentioned earlier that BuzzThunder elected to skip. Slothmonster just grab those right here, right now, and that'll definitely help him in Ice Palace. Oh, he's not even getting the half magic. Maybe forgot it was there, or just doesn't need it.
Ooh, BuzzThunder not quite getting the 1 cycle on these 2 knights, and then 1 knight gets up and runs away. That second bomb, or third bomb rather, takes out the second knight, and he's going to keep moving through here. Slothmonster, hot on his heels, headed through Ice Palace as well.
Yeah, and maybe seeing a little bit of that thoroughness on BuzzThunder's side, biting him a little bit. You know, opting to check those 2 item locations cost him a little bit of time. Gets the bomb jump at the first try, very nicely done.
Yeah, and without Samaria, you're definitely going to use the bomb jump in this dungeon, because you don't want to mess around with that block puzzle. And for all we know, Samaria may not even show up here.
I suppose the good news for our runners is if Samaria doesn't show up here, your options are still pretty limited. So there's item number 1, 300 rupees.
And still no small key, so the runners do have to take the longer path down through this hall. Slothmonster, unfortunately, also missing it, but there's the Cane of Samaria in the big chest of ice. As long as he knows where that ice rod is, BuzzThunder has entered go mode and gets to skip doing the remainder of this dungeon.
Oh, and this could be interesting. I wonder, you know, you tend to play in Rat Dungeons a little bit differently when you're down to 1 item remaining, but I wonder if Slothmonster is going to check that first.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of runners go north from that crossways room with the moving spike, just so they can do right side first. If he does that, he's going to lose a fair amount of time here, and time is going to be at a premium. This is going to come down to execution, with BuzzThunder having, you know, 10-20 seconds of lead once you count Ice Rod.
Those Puffballs escaped from the corner, but BuzzThunder got enough damage onto all of them while they were there. 3 Fire Rod shots takes them down.
Fire Rod works out very nicely. Just a map on Cold Stare, but that doesn't matter because that's 5 crystals, and more importantly, go mode for BuzzThunder. Fortunately, Slothmonster is headed towards that big chest, getting the hook shot out so he can clip through those blocks. And Sloth is about to enter go mode as well.
Yeah, I think obviously a good decision. When you're only searching for one item, you go for the quickest checks first. Even if, you know, it's not there and you have to route around a little bit differently, save yourself so much time if it is there. To answer your question in chat, yes, BuzzThunder does know. He checked it on his first trip up.
Alright, so Sloth using Bombos as well, getting that nice spin off, putting all of Cold Stare in a corner. It escapes, but only a couple more hits are needed. Ooh, unfortunately those puffs have separated, and he is going to switch to the Fire Rod to get some easier hits in here.
Does get him down eventually, and that's it for Slothmonster. He will be off to Misery Mire as well. And we have a race, folks.
I'll be honest, I don't know the exact time difference between going through Paradox Cave to get to Turtle Rock and going up the left side and reading the Ether Tablet. I expect it's somewhere between 1 and 2 minutes, and Slothmonster is just slightly more than that behind BuzzThunder right now. So this is going to be a really close race, especially once Misery Mire finishes up. And, you know, it could come down to a left versus a right turn somewhere. BuzzThunder clearing this out. 2 small keys to start off with, so he does not get the Great Mire, and he's going to have to keep looking for the big key.
Yep, we'll be heading over to the left side here, flipping that switch, and checking.
Oh, Slothmonster showing off the bird toss for us.
Thank you for that, Sloth. Throwing that pterodactyl in the water where he belongs.
A completely meaningless piece of swag that is so fun to see. And a compass in its vanilla location in Misery Mire, BuzzThunder is going to keep on with the left side checks and sit through that cutscene. We'll see if the vanilla big key chest holds that big key for him to finish this dungeon.
Yep, and he does need to be careful. He's got some potions, but just be careful with his health here.
Yeah, he's got potions, but I don't believe he has a fairy. Sloth using very good hookshot strats and managing his iframes very well to get that switch on the floor. The problem with that switch on the floor is if you're invincible from the iframes from the spikes, you also don't trigger the switch. So you have to be very deliberate in where you're standing. BuzzThunder opens that vanilla big key chest, and it's only a piece of heart. It's a heart refill, which is fantastic for him, but it's still not a big key.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see Slothmonster take the lead here. Potentially.
Oh, that's a small key, so it's got to be in that right-hand side chest, right next to the big chest. And Slothmonster's going left. I think BuzzThunder just won back a bunch of time.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably see Slothmonster opt to skip the cutscene room just try and save himself a little bit of time if it is where we know it is now.
It would certainly be consistent with the play he's shown us so far, but
Oh.
he is going that way.
I guess he feels like he's already over there. He's got to do it. So BuzzThunder kind of gets a little bit fortunate there.
Oh, unfortunately, Slothmonster missing one of the clips while pushing the block. Missing another one there. Is he going to be able to light these torches in time? Yes, he still is, which is very fortunate.
He does. I'm wondering if maybe, just kind of the grueling nature of the seed and maybe a little bit of nerves getting to him at this point.
Yeah, we're an hour and 50 minutes in, and we've still got 1.5 dungeons to clear before reaching Ganon's Tower. This is going to be over 2 hours for the runners, and you do start getting a bit drained at that point.
Yeah, especially with these tournament races. It's so taxing on your mind, and you're constantly just, glancing over at that runner chat, seeing if the other person is finished.
Now, BuzzThunder's at full hearts here, which is really nice, because he didn't use those sword beams, but with sword beams, you can just step into the room, turn, swing your sword once, and hit that crystal switch. That's a nice little time save you can make, but it only works out if you're at full health.
Yeah, can be it's a little bit rare, maybe, given just the nature of Misery Mire, but BuzzThunder will be heading into his Vitreous fight. So many options for him. Looks like he's going to go with Silver Arrows.
I love this fight. This is revenge for all those times the game made you do it with Fighter Sword. You just take pot shots, and it goes down so quickly. Slothmonster having a bit of trouble getting that block on, but one toss will do it. And BuzzThunder picks up his 6th crystal, the 2nd of the red crystals, so he can unlock the Pyramid Fairy, but I don't think that's on his mind. He needs to get to Turtle Rock.
Yep, he's got to head up, grab his Ice Rod, probably grab the Half Magic, which will be super helpful for the Trinex fight. And then, head to T-Rock. Just one dungeon remains before we get to Ganon's Tower.
Based on the execution I've seen so far from BuzzThunder, I'm completely confident he can beat the game without Half Magic. That said, I think the couple seconds it takes him to pick up the Half Magic, he's going to save by not having to divert to pick up magic refills. So it's probably a time save to pick it up, only because it's directly in his path right here.
Yeah, and I think we're guaranteed Slothmonster is not even going to bother. That would cost him too much time. It's not worth it. So he'll just be heading straight to T-Rock via the East Death Mountain path.
Alright, BuzzThunder picking up that Ice Rod. Giving everyone a sigh of relief that, yeah, he was aware of what that was, which, you assume he knows, but always you're a bit worried about. He is going to head to Turtle Rock. These runners are going to be less than a minute apart entering this dungeon.
Yeah, this is great.
This is great.
Ooh, BuzzThunder getting blocked by the Dead Rock there.
It's a terrible time for that to happen.
I just kind of answer somebody asked a question in chat about 2 hours being long. 2 hours I would not say is really a bad time for a seed like this. This is a Aghanim required, pedestal required seed. 2 hours is what I would expect. Unless your execution is just incredibly on point and you make all the right gambles, your sub 2 hours is going to be incredibly difficult to do with a seed like this.
Yeah, just the sheer linearity, the number of times the runners were forced to go in one specific direction, or the game gave them 10 options and they found their progression item in the worst of those 10 options, the one they were incentivized to check last. The number of times that's happened, it just naturally lengthens the seed out. A very quick race would be under 80 minutes, and that's where everything's right in your path. Here, a lot of things were in their path, but the path was so long.
All right, so here we go through T-Rock. Unfortunately, there's pros and cons to T-Rock being your last dungeon in a Go mode dungeon. The pro is that you need to go to Gan's Tower, and this puts you right there, so pretty easy to get over to that once you've completed it. The downside to T-Rock being a Go mode dungeon is that you still pretty much have to check everything. Practically every chest.
That's right. If you have the early big key, you can skip checking the chest that would normally contain the big key, because the best thing it would give you is give you a small key back that you spent to get there. And maybe if that chest didn't have a small key, now you're up a small key and you don't have to hunt on the laser bridge. That's about all you get as a bonus in Go mode. You don't have to check the laser bridge necessarily, but you might still end up doing it for that final small key. So it really doesn't end up saving you a ton of time in Go mode compared to, say, Ice or Swamp.
Yep. Fortunately for our runners, they do find that big key, which means they'll be able to save a key from that lava lake chest.
Ooh, BuzzThunder taking a lot of hits from the Chain Chomp room. That's why we bring potions along the way. Because without powder, potions are your only way of recovering in here.
Yeah, powder and bug net are, I think, the only two items that we don't know the location of. Nearly got a full tracker there, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah. Now, I do expect to see Slothmonster make up some time in this dungeon. From what I understand, he's run the game a few times in No Major Glitches, the vanilla speedrun. And that means he's probably really aware of how to do each room in this dungeon. And the runners are going through this with Tempered Sword and tons of health, which is basically how you do it in NMG. So Slothmonster is going to be very familiar with the process here. BuzzThunder, maybe a bit less so. Might see him lose a bit of time.
Yep. He does remember, though, to save that key, which is good.
And he's going to skip the big chest here. This is a gamble, no question.
It's a little bit risky because there can be a small key in there. If there is, then it means he's going to have to check laser bridge.
Well, and if there was a small key there and a small key on the island, then he's just skipped 2 small keys and he will get stuck. Slothmonster going that way as well.
Fortunately for BuzzThunder, though, he does find a small key.
Oh, you know what?
Yes.
Yeah, you know what? They had enough small keys earlier that this is going to work out.
Yeah, the downside would have been he would have had to check laser bridge if that didn't have a small key, but it does, so no worries there. He's going to be able to go straight to Trinex. Looks like Slothmonster made the same gamble there.
Yeah, skipping that big chest really gave a time advantage. You know, we mentioned earlier that at this point in the run, you start looking over at that race room. You start hoping that the runner hasn't clicked, or that your opponent hasn't clicked done yet. But you're also a bit safe in the knowledge that, you know, you don't reasonably expect them to have finished at this point because you know all the hoops they had to go through. You know just how suboptimal this seed's routing was. So, to a certain extent, I think they both know that it's not over yet. But I'm sure they also don't know that they're this close to each other.
Yeah, I think... and I want to give some props here to BuzzThunder. You know, I know he said, and I do think it's true that Slothmonster has a little bit of an execution advantage, but props to BuzzThunder, he has not played poorly. And in fact, he's managed to keep a lead here through T-Rock.
That's right. I think the lead diminished a bit as now they're in the same room here. But Slothmonster certainly not gaining as much time as maybe we would have expected based on some earlier stuff of the run. These runners are both moving through at an incredible clip. I think they know at some level just how high the stakes are. And a fantastic time for Red Mail to drop right before Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, oh man, this is so close. And speaking of Ganon's Tower, I believe it is time for the Ganon's Tower Big Key Guessing Game.
Yeah, we have a little game we like to play at this point, where, you know, there are 22 possible chests for that big key to be in Ganon's Tower. Why don't you just throw your guess in chat there, see if you can figure out which one it is. If you guess correctly and you're subscribed to any speed gaming channel, you get your name on a nice little leaderboard that can tell other people, hey, I was right on the internet one time.
So where are you seeing this big key being?
I think I typed 14 in chat today, which is the chest for Bob's, or the chest at Bob, that glitched anti-fairy sprite, right above Ice Armos, according to normal routing.
I'll go ahead and say 11. It's what I've been guessing normally. Small key and big 20 in the first two chests there, and looks like BuzzThunder is going to elect to go left.
Yeah, some runners like to go right when they find that early small key, just to make sure that they've taken care of it. I've heard various people say that mathematically that's not a smart play. I've heard other people say that mathematically it's a brilliant play. So it just goes to show opinions can be divided. Slothmonster is going to check right side. For the purpose of the guessing game, we're going to go with whatever chest Buzz finds it in, because he got to GT first.
This is going to be it. I mean...
Well, there's our powder.
With these divergent paths in Ganon's Tower, where this big key is, I think, is likely going to decide the race.
Oh, absolutely. If it's on the right side, Slothmonster absolutely has the lead for this. If it's on the left side, BuzzThunder's going to keep the lead and is just going to have to maintain it. The one tricky thing is, if it shows up on right side, BuzzThunder's found 2 shields down here so far. If it shows up on right side, Slothmonster's going to go up the tower without powder. And they've got red mail, they've got tons of health, but, you know, that could add up, and there it is on right side.
Oh my goodness, so... Slothmonster going to be the first to find the big key, and we'll head up to Ganon's Tower. And for BuzzThunder, that was the worst possible outcome.
Yeah, he's going to be checking a lot of stuff before he makes it over to right side. Slothmonster's right side gamble paying off this time. Grabbing onto the wall and then standing still, but still using the D-pad to move those mimics around to get them into position. Taking a few hits from the lasers because he doesn't have that mirror shield that BuzzThunder got on the left side, but Slothmonster is headed up the tower into the gauntlet.
Yeah, a little bit of a rough time with the mimics there, but does get it done. Gets the manipulation on the red mimic there to get him to go up first, and is able to dash through cleanly.
Alright, so he's headed into the gauntlet, using the silver arrows here to take out those skeletons in a single hit. Fortunately, they move in straight enough lines that arrow shots usually go straight into them. Missing a shot there. And BuzzThunder's going to fall down into this Ice Armos fight.
Pretty nice Ice Armor's fight there from BuzzThunder. Meanwhile, Slothmonster finishing up his gauntlet here. And we'll be heading to land mode 2.
All right, swapping back to the Silver Arrows for this, we saw him do this fight earlier in 2 cycles. Missing that first shot, but getting a nice spin off. He may still be able to do a 2-cycle here.
Yeah, I don't know that it can be expressed how much more aggravating this fight is made by that fireball launcher.
That fireball launcher would cause no problems if it didn't shoot at exactly the times it did. It's specifically calculated to fire out fireballs just as you want to be standing still.
Yeah, I definitely think whoever was the lead programmer for those sorts of enemies was a little bit of a sadist.
It's certainly the same person who wrote the code for the Dead Rocks.
Meanwhile, BuzzThunder is going to pick up his big key here and we'll get started on his tower climb.
I lost my initial count. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 chests to find that big key.
Yep. 20 chests for BuzzThunder, only 6 for Slothmonster, so there you see the difference.
Well, looks like Daniel O'Brien guessed a 17, and that was closest, so congrats to him. He gets his name written on the internet. So Slothmonster has made his way all up the tower and is now up to that Moldorm 2 fight. BuzzThunder just starting out with that tower climb. Slothmonster with a clear advantage at this point.
I am wondering, I don't believe I saw him use that potion he bought earlier, so I think he still has that safety, fortunately. But no problems there with Moldorm 2. Takes him down with 2 tempered sword spins.
And getting one last hookshot clip off on those blocks to skip going around a couple things. Gets a very nice charge up the middle of that last room. And he's going to head to Aga. Just over 2 hours and about 8 minutes into this race.
Gets the double nicely done on the first pattern.
Ooh, a nasty pattern and a blue ball on round 2.
Ooh, still nothing on that third pattern there.
Oh, just a brutal fight. But there's another double.
Oh, and that should be a good pattern there for him, and he gets it.
BuzzThunder made his way up to Landmola already, powdered that bunny beam, which means these landmos are going to spawn much closer together. Makes it harder to get the multiple hits off, but one snake is down in the first cycle.
Yeah, Landmo not really cooperating for him here. Meanwhile, Slothmonster will be dropping into the Ganon fight here in just a moment. And unless we see something catastrophic on his side, he's in good shape.
That's right, he's got to be a bit careful with his health here. He doesn't have the half magic, but I do think you're right, he's still got a potion. He's got cape, and if he can get through the first 2 phases, he'll be fine.
Not quite getting the 1 cycle on the first phase of Ganon there. But we'll get into the second phase and gets a nice positioning from Ganon.
Oh, this is nice to see. When you're up in the corner like that, you can spin twice to get 4 hits, effectively, from the Tempered Sword with a spin. Kana Burna gets him safely out of there, despite all the lag it generates, and he's into Phase 3. At this point, I think a Fire Bat would do 2 hearts of damage to him, so 1 is not going to be fatal. But he's also got silvers, and that means phase 4 can go very quickly.
It can. I believe he does need to avoid any hugs from Ganon. If I'm not mistaken, that would kill him at this point, no?
I believe so. But he gets one hit off, gets that torch glitch, which, you know, makes it a bit easier. And playing it a bit safe, staying away from Ganon where he can. But he gets a nice double off there, and is only needing one more arrow.
He just misses getting the slash there, does get it, and gets his final arrow in.
That'll do it.
GG's to Slothmonster. He will finish off Ganon, head up into the Triforce room, and we'll finish with an official SRTV time of 2 hours, 10 minutes, and 53 seconds.
Yeah, congratulations to him. He's going to move on to a record of 2-1 in this tournament. And BuzzThunder is not super far behind, already taking down Moldorm 2. This, as we hoped and expected as the race went on, turned out very close.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta feel a little bit for BuzzThunder. I mean, it really just came down to one decision, which is unfortunate. He ran a really good race, was leading for most of it. And it just came down to Big Key being where it was.
BuzzThunder having slightly better time in this Aga 2 fight, but again, with these mean patterns, it's hard to get a hit off at this point. This pattern should give him a bit of an easier time, as he gets one more hit there. And double there does it.
Very nicely done.
Alright, so BuzzThunder going to do the same fight. He's got significantly more health for this. I'm not too worried about his safety. Doesn't quite get that one cycle on phase 1. But he's going to get, of course, those same patterns on phase 2. Doesn't go for the top corner spin, but these slashes are still going to work out just fine.
Doesn't quite get the required number of hits to get out of that phase. It's going to take a little more fire bat damage. Needs to be careful.
You know, even with red mail, those fire bats still do 2 full hearts. It's just mean what they do, even when you're that armored already.
He will get through it, though, and begins his phase 3.
Now it looks like Slothmonster is in chat. Maybe not joining us for an interview, but I'm sure anyone with questions is welcome to ask him what his thoughts were. I certainly know, or want to know, how he thought he was doing compared to the other runner, especially after an all-dungeon seed like that.
And BuzzThunder gets a double, finishes off Ganon, and he is going to finish here as well.
Yeah, less than 5 minutes separating these two runners. BuzzThunder finishing with an official time of, is that exactly 2 hours and 15 minutes?
I believe it is.
So just over 4 minutes between these two runners. Pretty much the difference between a left side, right side, but of course any number of other decisions in this race affecting what we saw was just such a back and forth in the apparent lead between these two runners.
Yeah, I know you mentioned it feels like so long ago, but with these one-on-one races, we're hoping for, some close matches, and we definitely got it this time. GG to both our runners. That was a fantastic race to watch.
Yeah, certainly had me wondering all through that race who was going to come out on top and what critical decisions were going to matter. But again, I don't think it was just that right side, left side. I think a lot of factors in this race played towards and against each runner.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Slothmonster triple dipped Palace of Darkness. He made some gambles early that put him behind, but definitely, his execution was solid this race, and he was able to make up ground. And a lot of it because of how much was required.
And speaking of Slothmonster, he has joined us here. Congratulations on that basically full clear of the game and the win associated with it. Not hearing you there, Slothmonster, just getting a bit of feedback on your end. Yeah, unfortunately,
there we go.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
Remembering that I have a hardware mute is a thing.
Yeah, that'll stop you from talking.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. What's going through your mind right now?
So who made the Plando?
The word Plando was thrown out, I think, once or twice during this race.
I figured it would have at some point. I was just doing everything I could. I was like, come on, where's the Dark World access? And then it came down to the mushroom, and I was like, please be the I was turning in the mushroom saying, please be the hammer, and it turned out to be the sword, and I was like, okay, so we're doing Aga.
Yeah, I think it was around the time you guys both got your mirror and then found Ice Rod being on Ether Tablet was when that was said. But yeah, just a crazy seed.
Yeah, and then it turned out being a pedestal on top of that, and I was like, okay, let's just full clear the game. Let's go.
Yeah, having that knowledge certainly gave you a bit more direction in this seed. As soon as you got that, we saw an immediate shift of, well, okay, if I'm doing every dungeon, I'm doing every dungeon, and nothing's going to stop me from doing that.
Yeah, I think probably my biggest mistake that I made was having to triple dip pod. That was bad.
Yeah, we were wondering about that, and because you immediately went to check pedestal after it. I mean, what were your thoughts when you saw that? And you're like, oh, great, I got to go back in there again.
I mean, as soon as I knew that it was a pedestal seed, I was like, okay, whatever, it's behind me, and just started going. When I double dipped it, I was like, okay, this is a thing, and then I saw the pedestal, I was like, okay, we're triple dipping, let's try to not ever do this again.
Yeah, I suppose at a certain point, it's just, okay, well, that doesn't help in this race, but let's try not to do that in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. As Plando as it was a fun seed. Like, things were in trolly locations, but not too bad. I had fun.
Well, I'll say it made for an incredibly intriguing race to watch. Is the right side Ganon's Tower played something you normally do, or was this a kind of gut feeling with this seed?
I usually, if I do get a key, I will go right. I did contemplate going left, but what happened to me in my first race with Kane on the torch and deciding to go right instead of left lost me that one. So I was like, no, I'm just going to keep going right. Like, I'm not going to change directions.
Yeah, well, it certainly paid off for you here, and kind of what ended up being the difference. BuzzThunder actually entered Ganon's tower about 25 to 30 seconds before you did. So it was incredibly tight heading up there, and he chose to go left, which obviously, unfortunately, didn't pay off.
So, record of 2-1 in this tournament so far is nothing to sniff at, certainly. Nice position to be in. I guess the question then is, any particular areas you're finding you're focusing on when you're practicing? Or are you just playing seeds, trying to get whatever boosts you can?
The one thing that I have practiced was the bomb openings, which paid off for this seed. That worked pretty well. I mean, I had 2 out of the 3 guards cleared the way that I had practiced, so I'd say that paid off. That and like the Ice Palace bomb jump, I have issues like adjusting 1 pixel down after placing the bomb, so those are really like the 2 things that I practiced for this.
Well, I'd say you pulled off both those things to a fantastic degree. Probably what you were shooting for with that practice has paid off.
Thank you.
And at this time, looks like BuzzThunder will not be joining us in an interview, so we might wrap things up here. If you want more Link to the Past Randomizer, it's on Speed Gaming. It's on all the time. It's everywhere. I'm going to load up a schedule and tell you specifically where it is, but I do know we have a number of matches starting right at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at right here. I believe we have 1 match currently ongoing on Speed Gaming 3, Melphis versus Trident Tail. Starting at 11 on this channel, in fact, Sea Falcon versus Cross Product. That should be a pretty good match. Also on Speed Gaming 4, started about 28 minutes ago, Truzzle versus F. Coughlin. I think another really good match. So plenty of randomizer to go around. Check out those channels if you like what you saw here.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed watching these runners, feel free to give them a follow because they've still got 4 weeks to go in this tournament, and I expect you'll see some practice coming out of them as well. So thanks to them both for putting on that show, and although I'm sure they didn't intend it, a huge thanks to them for being so close, trading that lead back and forth, and really giving us a tight race.
Yep, absolutely. And also big thank you to MS Metroid, our tracker, for doing a fantastic job for us here.
Yeah, she had to click pretty much every button on that thing by the time this all wrapped up. Never found that bug net.
That elusive bug net, but
it was probably back in the big chest of Thieves Town.
Oh man, that one item location.
And I've been Phylian. I've been joined by Jay Meisher. Thank you so much for joining me through this grand trip around all of Hyrule. I'll give the last word to my co-commentator. Good night, everyone.
Thanks to you as well, and we'll see you guys all next time. Have a good night.